the stiff truth. Welcome to the Stiff Truth. It's a very exciting day today. We've got a lot to talk about. I don't know if we can fit it all in, but that's what she said. How are you doing, Scott?
I am doing great, Bobby. Thanks for asking, man. Can't complain at all. Loving life. Super stoked about the show today, man. You're right. There is a plethora of things that we need to talk about today. So hopefully we can get it all in. And she's actually realized after she said that we did get it all in eventually. So we can get there if we just try, I think.
She just didn't know that it was already all in. Oh, man.
No reason to disappoint her, right?
No. Oh, we're ridiculous. Anyway, so we do have a lot to get up today. Just kind of run the gamut on things. You know, we got a Democratic National Convention that seemed to be going on for the last month. That just wrapped up. You know, more Trump associates getting wrapped up in legal issues. You know, that's kind of been a theme lately.
Trump getting bumped up to the status of Messiah, right? Something of that nature. We'll talk about that for a little bit.
Yes, we have been neglecting that. And we've got a great stiff drink coming up too today, which is eerily similar to another stiff drink that we've had upon further reflection. But we'll dig into that. If you guys have been following us on Insta or Facebook or whatever, you'll know that we are having electric lemonades today. Very refreshing, very good summer drink. You will get there.
Yes.
But how's it going, man? The Stiffies haven't seen us talk in a week. I mean, we talk, pretty much every day or two, but they don't know that. So how are things been going the last week?
Well, cat's out of the bag. You just told them that we talk every day. I mean, I guess we're friendly. I know we said before that we could barely stand each other, and that's why we got a drink during the show. Nice Stella Artois. But actually, I'm doing pretty good, man. I mean, the obsession, the addiction of messing around with the stock market's accelerating. I think I told you before initially. I was like, yeah, I looked at like the Stash app like 10 times today. You're like 10, yeah, me too. Like more like 30. I think there was a point like on Thursday or Friday. It was like every other time I was done like doing something for work, typing a sentence, clicking on something, I'd go check it real quick, refresh it. I was like, fuck, yeah, it's down. Or to get all like, happy and celebrate when it's like 50 cents up. So that's fun. That's entertaining. But other than that, man, I got my insulation done in the house. That was like part 2 of the whole phase, right? They had to blow so much fucking insulation up there. But right away, I think it's like 35% like difference on the just the energy, like or just the air that's escaping. So I'm going to get a nice little rebate from Excel Energy, $450. Yeah, so that's cool. So next step now is finally to get into the heating and cooling deal. We got the electrical, we got the insulation done. Now then, blah blah blah. And fast forwarding all the way to today, I've got some baby back ribs smoking in the Traeger right now. It's almost going on in about 2 hours and 45 minutes now. Going to be on there for about 6 hours today. And I'm the only person that likes ribs at the house. So the whole fucking rack is for me. I couldn't be happier than that. I'm pleased as fucking punch, man. So, but that's really all that's going on with me, man. What about you?
Yeah, things are going good. I don't have a Traeger. And I'm out of propane. So I haven't been grilling all week at all.
Holy shit, that just went really south real quick.
I know. It's been bad. I've been cooking chicken in the oven. I've been eating oven-baked chicken breasts because, believe it or not, I'm working on me. Daddy's working on me. So
somebody's
been investing time. I've been trying to get in my workouts. I've been sticking to, healthy meats, veggies, salads, low sugar fruits. I've been really doing good. And so far, I've dropped down a little bit, a few pounds this week. So
how do you feel? Like physically?
I feel fantastic.
Good?
Just simply changing my diet in a couple of days. I feel fantastic. Cutting out the sugar and the bread. I really do think that I have a gluten and lactose issue at my age that I've just been trying to avoid and walk around bloated. I mean, I'm a husky guy anyway, but when you're walking around like, bloated on top of, carrying extra pounds, it fucking sucks. So, and cutting out the bread, I think really has helped a lot. It's unfortunate because I was telling my son, I don't think I can drink milk or bread. I was like, what sucks about that? Two of the best things in the world are fucking milk and bread.
This is goddamn true. And it's funny that you mentioned the gluten thing. For the old school Stiffies, you got to go all the way back to episode 1. That's the first thing that we talk about on our show. Pretty crazy, huh? So
yeah,
really
circling back months later, finally taking it seriously, trying to do something about it.
6 months later. Love that.
Yeah. Also, trying a new, prescription regimen here. Honestly, I don't even know what the doctor put me on, but I'm still dealing with like a sinus infection for like months now since the bronchitis from forever ago. Bronchitis is pretty much gone, but the sinus infection's here. So they got me on this nasal spray stuff, right? So they put in a prescription. Jess calls. She's like, it's like $110. I'm like, for what?
Whoa.
Is that like insurance? The doctor said it was generic. The insurance is like $10, and they're like, "Yeah, I didn't cover your nasal thing." And I was like, "Well, ask her if like Afrin is just as good or whatever, right?" And so she does, and the doctor's like, "Actually, probably nasal core. It would be fine for this over the counter, right?" And so she goes, and I was like, "How much is that?" She's like, $12. I'm like, "Problem solved." So
what the fuck are they trying to put up your nose?
$100 bottle of nasal core. So if you hear me sniffing, I just had me a blast, had me a bump of nasal cord a little bit ago, but it's actually been working. So far so good in a couple of days. So there's my my HIPAA story, guys. You guys got let in on beyond the HIPAA compliance regulations. We're an open book here at the Stiff Truth.
I like what you did there, Bob. A couple of things I want to just kind of go back to, if you don't mind here. I love what you did there. So because you've really dialed up your cocaine use, but you just kind of disclaimed something else and, just gave everybody a little bit of a diversion there for when you're going to be sniffling. So that was very smart. And when you said you're having healthy meats now, beside man meat, which I know is your favorite healthy meat.
That's very low calorie carb.
Yeah, high protein too. Very high protein. Yeah.
Only if you finish her off.
Now, besides that, what has been your go-to? Are we doing mainly chicken? Are we doing a lot of fish? I know you said chicken pretty was in there, but I just wanted to dive into that a little bit more.
So yeah, I have been having a little bit more fish. Chicken is a staple.
That's true.
Chicken is like 3, 4, 5 days a week. There's some sort of chicken breast going on. But yeah, and specifically baked chicken is really kind of where it's been at lately. But chicken salads, chimichurri chicken salads, things like that.
Yeah, getting in there.
Yeah, and it gets repetitive and it gets kind of old. But I did get myself some extra fancy mixed nuts from Costco, so that I do have my little snack.
No, I'm imagining these extra fancy ones are wearing like fucking like diamond necklaces and earrings and have like fucking like. Dude,
they have a top hat and a monocle.
Oh wow, that's really fancy.
They smoke cigarettes with like a stem.
Wow, we're going back to like Great Gatsby kind of era fancy. Right. I like what you did there. Very nice. Well, that's good, man. It's always good to take care of yourself, take a step back, right? Because drinking constantly and having a bunch of red meat, let's just face it, it might be fun, it might feel very good, but not the next day and not long term. So I like what you're doing there. Keep it up, buddy. We're all rooting for you, Bob.
So speaking of ribs, before I kind of changed my diet last week, we had a couple of racks of ribs or whatever, and I'm throwing down on the ribs, and then I get there and I'm like, oh, I'm hot. I gotta get the fan going. She's like, what? Why are you so hot? And I was like, I got the meat sweats. And she's like, that's not a thing. And I was like, it's such a thing. I got the meat sweats.
It's funny that you mentioned the meat sweats. Me, my buddy Blair, and my wife Jamie, we had an argument about that being a real thing like 10 years ago because we always used to talk about getting the meat sweats. Now, it turns out it's not a clinical thing, but I'm on the same page you are, dude. If you eat too much meat, dude, there is a little perspiration, a little that just kind of, it's very uncomfortable too. And you start
I think it's a man thing.
It may be. Well, you know what? Maybe it's related to the prostate. Women wouldn't have any idea what's going on there. You know what I mean? So
hey, maybe if red meat's related to the prostate, maybe the meat sweats are related to the prostate.
There we go. I think we just solved it there.
We've tied it all together.
I'm telling you what. Smart. We're always growing. Yeah, super intelligent fucks. Speaking of which, man, let's just jump right into talking about the convention here. And I'll be honest with you, I did not ad nauseum watch fucking 8.5 hours of the convention. I just didn't do it. I watched like, yeah, I know, right? I watched like maybe the first 15, 20 minutes because I wanted to see how they introduce things and what have you. And then I literally just went through and watched like every single speech from every politician and family member and whatever too. But what were your overall thoughts in general about the convention? I mean, do you think this was a big win? Do you think it was kind of lackluster? Do you think it was run of the mill? I mean, what are your thoughts?
I kind of enjoy. So there's a couple of things, right? I really like people getting up in front of an audience that can speak well, and to watch them speak. Obama as an orator, one of the best, right? He's just a great speaker, and it kind of. It was disappointing to not get to experience, a great speaker speak in front of an audience. But having said that, the new format that they employed because of COVID, where it was more about storytelling, production value, it was kind of nice. So, like, for instance, like things that I never knew about Biden. And I talked to you about this before. I never knew that, when he was, our age, maybe younger, he had his 2 boys and a little girl, and then he lost his wife and his little girl to an accident, a car accident.
I didn't know that either. I never knew that either. Yeah.
That's some tough shit right there, right? So that gives a little bit more perspective on a person's, history and why maybe he's, I wouldn't even say a little bit more, probably a lot more empathetic of people's plights and people's struggles, because it's a long time he was a single dad, right? Sure. Trying to be a senator, trying to do all of this. And then he didn't meet Jill as his second wife till years later when the boys were already like 10 years old or whatever, and then started a whole new life with her. I didn't know any of that, and we probably wouldn't have even found that out if it was the old school convention when they were just up there in front of the crowd, rah, rah, rah.
Yeah, sure.
Doing the Oprah thing, and how many votes do you have? How many votes do you have? So that there was a little bit refreshing. On the other side of that, it's a little awkward to hear like the jokes that people would make, and there's no laughter. Like they're just like hoping they land.
Julia Louis-Dreyfus, like I watched like a montage of all her jokes and everything, mainly about Trump or what have you. Some of them okay, some of them like I didn't understand why she said them or what have you. The other thing I thought was kind of awkward too is when they were done talking. Like a lot of them didn't say, thank you. You know what I mean? And that kind of like knew it was closing up. Or
something to signal that they're done.
Yeah. Even Kamala Harris, I think, or somebody else, like she stopped talking. And then the camera was just on her for a while, and she was kind of like standing there. There was like a series of different people where it was just a blank kind of this. Obviously, there couldn't be any applause, laughter, or whatever, right? So yeah, that was kind of strange. But I guess I think it's the first time, obviously, they had done a format like this. So what can you expect? You're obviously going to rewatch this stuff. Probably the producer would be like, "Well, that was probably a little bit shitty. Maybe we should have had some transitions."
Yeah, and it's
there.
not like something they're going to need to perfect because next year's will be different.
Well, let's hope.
Right, God willing, right?
Until COVID-20 comes out, coming this fall, COVID-20.
No, election year's not till 2024. So 2023, late 23, maybe.
Sure.
I'm just kidding.
But I'll tell you, my perspective a little bit here on just watching this is, I did I have to agree with you 100%. Even though again, I'm not necessarily what they would call an Obama fan from policies, his presidency. It is what it is. I don't think he's the worst president. I'm not one of those guys either, right? But to see his about give or take 20-minute speech or whatever, dude, his cadence, his vocabulary, his the way he carries himself is pretty supreme, right? Like that was something that I picked out when he was president. I was like, you know what? This guy could be telling me shit I absolutely don't believe in. But if I'm not really paying attention and trying to digest and understand what he's saying, and I'm just listening to him speak, I feel pretty good about things. You know what I mean? It's like he's got a way of really commanding and looking to. He had a lot of just very genuine smiles and this and that, whatever. It was nice. It was nice to see him chat. I did think it was kind of funny, and I thought this was a little odd. They gave ex-presidents. Bill Clinton was up there. not just ex-presidents, but other political figures that were pretty high up, like Hillary Clinton.
John Kerry was up there. How about that?
Yeah, Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi. I'll pause. I need to double back to Nancy about something because I have a tough time watching her for a couple of reasons. But Pelosi, and then you had Cory Booker, you had AOC, who got a whopping 60 seconds. Like, you can't say too much. She'll go off the cuff too. But I thought it was very, very interesting that they gave Michelle Obama more time than they gave Kamala Harris, and more time than they gave ex-presidents, and more time that they gave current politicians in the Senate, including, the minority leader and in the House, Speaker of the House. I thought that was pretty strange. In fact, when I was watching, it's like, why the fuck is she getting so much time? That was just kind of strange to me. And then something Michelle Obama said where I kind of looked, because I was like, oh, you fucking bitch. I don't know if you caught this part. She's like, now is not the time to play around with third-party candidates that have no chance of winning. Basically, now is the time to keep the duopoly set. It's him or him. Now is not the time to vote with your heart or potentially give us a third option down the road. That kind of made me a little bit upset because that was a little backhanded smear to everybody that actually is voting with their heart, and they don't think either of these guys are it for the job.
Well,
gotta say that.
And honestly, if you're Republican or a Democrat, never will be the time. So that's a moot point, right?
Yeah, again, it was something that didn't need to be said. It didn't need to be. I didn't think it needed to be said at all. But it was said, and I was like, I get where you're going there. But honestly, that was kind of I was happy about that to a certain extent, that she felt that she needed to mention that in her speech, because obviously the libertarians have gotten a little bit more traction than they have in the past, and it was warranted in her mind to say something about that to hopefully deter the people watching that are on the fence, libertarians included, to maybe just vote for Joe Biden, right? So it is what it is. But again, I thought it was a little bit of a stab. But without taking it personally, the one resounding thing that I kind of noticed in so many of the speeches that I thought was kind of not funny, I guess, but in a sense kind of strange, or, why would they do that? And then I thought about it. And it was said by almost everybody. They're like, hey, so blah, blah, blah. He's not Trump, which is fine. Biden's better. He's more empathetic. He's a real person. He's going to get this country back on track, build back better. I actually kind of like that little catchphrase. That's actually pretty nice. But this really big push to get out there and vote now, right now, tonight. Don't hesitate. Mail in your fucking shit right now. Don't wait till November. Do it now. And everybody's like, do it right away. Do it yesterday. And I was like, why this push? And I was like, oh, wait. They don't want to wait till after a debate. They want everybody to vote right now on passion, not actually the dialogue between Trump, Pence, Kamala, and Biden, which I thought was pretty interesting that they took that tactic, because it was driven home to me. It kept getting nailed in my head with almost everybody speaking, was like this big push to don't wait till actually election day, vote now. And I thought that was a little bit suspect, a little bit shady of the Democrats. That's just me, though.
And I don't even think you can vote now.
What? I think you can mail in, right? You can do that.
You can't even, in New Mexico, at least, you can't even request a ballot right now.
Why?
That's not even here yet. So I don't know. Every state does it differently.
Yeah, well, they even from what I understand, I haven't looked into this, but I imagine you can vote early.
Yeah, you can vote whenever. So if you request your absentee ballot, they'll obviously send you the absentee request form or whatever. Then you fill that out, and then you send that back, and then they send you back your actual ballot. And then you fill that out. But there's no limitation of how early you can send that once you receive your actual ballot.
Yeah, and again, the only reason I thought that was interesting is for the most of the people they're speaking to, let's just face it, this whole convention is not really meant to be for people that are already party line Democrats or party line Republicans.
They're already going to vote left, and it's like the RNC is not for the right. This is for that middle 20% that we talked about so much.
Yeah, this is the independents, the people that are on the fence, the third party people like me too. They're trying to sway us, and I thought it was really interesting that all the stuff that was said about Joe Biden. I'm not going to discredit it. He sounds like a really bang up great guy, but at the end of the day, wouldn't you want to see him debate his policies and go toe to toe with the other man that's in charge and the other person that they think he is so much better than every way, shape, or form? And again, not backing up Trump at all. But wouldn't you want to show everybody, hey, look, proof is in the pudding. He's going to speak. He's going to talk about his policies. Kamala's going to get up there, go toe-to-toe, back him up. I want to see them destroy Pence and Trump. And guys, wait for these debates. It's going to be fucking bad. It's really going to back up and just, again, solidify and validate your reason to vote for this guy. You would think they'd go that angle if they were super, super confident that he could go in there and crush it in a debate. I don't think they are. I think we've talked about this before in like a sideways one shape or form, but you know what I mean? That to me was a little bit interesting, how they almost like want to just kind of sidestep the entire debate thing. So there's that.
And you know me personally, I love a good debate. I do. I was on the debate team in high school. Like I love a good debate. That's what's up. Bring your facts, bring your arguments. Unfortunately, the debates haven't been as good in the last few years as we've gone to more of this idiocracy, rah kind of. When Hillary and Trump debated, it was less about policy and facts as it was about like mudslinging, name calling, facial expressions, disrespect, and so that sucks. I wish we could get back to more debates about issues, but
I agree 100%. And I would hope, though, and this is what I would hope, is Trump tries to do that. Trump tries to create, this reality show kind of feel, and that, if you remember, too, it was so creepy in the 2016 debates when Trump is like.
He was looming.
Yeah, he was like circling around her like a fucking hungry shark or some shit. Like, dude, what are you doing? Go back to your fucking podium, dude. Like, what's your deal? Like, again, making it very theatrical. You know what I mean? I'm like, what are you doing, dude? And saying shit like why she was talking like, if you were here, I'd put you in jail. And everybody's like cheering and shit like that. It would be really nice to see Kamala and Biden get in there and redirect and kind of put that dude in his seat. Like, hey, Trump, you got to stay over there and we're going to talk about fucking policies, right? We're not going to get in the name calling. It'd be great to see somebody kind of refresh it to back in the day in that respect. But I don't think they can do that with Trump. I honestly think once they get in there with the room with Trump has a way of getting under people's skin. He just does. And I think he'll get that shit out of them. And I get what you're saying. That might be a little bit lackluster. But still, it's always nice to see people go toe-to-toe because it might show some colors of Joe that may reinforce what everybody was saying during the convention. It's like, you know what? This guy's a stand-up dude. He's taking the high road. Trump's taking the low road. He's punching low blows. Biden's staying up here talking about policies, and it's completely mismatched. I really think Biden is way more of a stand-up dude.
Well, and the first debate is in what, 2 or 3 weeks? Like it's soon. It's in September.
Yeah. Well,
I think it's like September 15th ish.
Aren't they doing the RNC convention first?
The RNC convention starts on Monday. So
and it's in person, right?
Stay tuned for. I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is.
Well, well, Tate's going to be there with his Bible and praying the whole time. So I don't even think the virus is going to be around.
They'll be protected, so it'll be okay. But I really look forward to seeing it because I think the whole debate's going to be about. It's like a football game, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be like offensive versus defense, and the whole thing is we all know what Trump's going to do, right? He's going to try to get Joe Biden pissed off. He's going to try to get him off of his mark. He's going to try to get it into a interpersonal argument between the two people in front of everyone. That's what he wants to do because he feels that he can win that, right? But if Biden can not get baited into that and just kind of stick to, answering the questions and going with policy and going with, things, he has a significant advantage there. Dude's been a senator since the fucking Eisenhower administration. Dude has seen every law amended to the Constitution in the last 50 years.
He's signed the Bill of Rights. We both know this already.
He's on the right under Hancock. It's Biden. Seriously.
It was funny though too. I didn't even gonna say it before you actually were talking about something pretty deep or never, about his wife and it was like back before this, we didn't even know about his wife and his daughter. I was like, yeah, and that was like when the dinosaurs were still roaming the earth. But I didn't go there. I just did. Sorry, but yeah, I see, and that's the thing is I don't think, and I was really proud of Biden. I'll tell you this during his speech. He writes a good speech. Now I'm sure this was spot check corrected and abbreviated and
they said he's been working on it for months.
Yeah, he's worked on it all summer. It was the speech of his life, right?
And it was good. He did good.
Yeah, he did a great job. He did a really great job. But again, you throw that guy off the script, which Trump is able to do to a lot of people. He'd probably do it to me. I got no qualms there. But I'm interested to see what happens there. I almost wish that for this debate, Pence and Trump would switch seats. I was like, why doesn't Pence debate him? You're more even fucking keeled, Pence. You debate fucking Biden and Kamala. Trump, just go sit down and play with some toys in the corner. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I don't know. It's tough, but we'll see what happens, man. It was overall, it was a good convention. And I made sure to watch every single fucking speech from everybody. And one thing that again, it's not unique to Democrats, but I did think it was kind of funny and in the sense of, man, politicians, dude, is Pete Buttigieg was up there, make sure he gets the gay vote. You know what I mean? Like everything he said in his little 2.5-minute speech was all about, I'm gay. 10 years ago, I could get kicked out of the military. Look where we've come so far in 10 years. And look where we could go in 10 more years because people like me and, we could love whoever we want. Cool. Awesome. And then Tammy Duckworth. I thought this was a little bit low class, but they did it pretty slyly. You know who Tammy Duckworth is, correct? Or the politician that was a military and got her legs blown off and everything, right? Like they start the fucking speech, pan down at her artificial legs a little bit and then pan up. I'm like, okay, in case you don't know, she lost her legs, everybody that doesn't know her too much. And she, boom, you get the military vote right there. And then they had Pocahontas. Come on, help me out here.
You're talking about
yeah, I'm making fun of her right now.
Why can't I remember her name?
I don't know. I just totally blanked.
Elizabeth Warren.
There we go. Elizabeth Warren. Her background for her speech was a fucking preschool, right? And I was like, okay, you're getting the stay-at-home moms and the parents vote right now. And then Jill Biden.
So I'd like to pause you there. If you noticed in that background image of that preschool in the cubbies, there's 3 block letters next to each other sequentially in 3 boxes that said BLM.
Oh my fucking God!
Just gonna throw that out there.
It was very, very sly. But I did think it was kind of interesting. They picked certain people that were relevant, right? And they're all it's like we got homosexual vote, we got the black vote, we got the teachers vote, we've got the parents vote, we got the veterans vote. Again, it's what you do, right? You got to appeal to everybody, and they've got somebody in the Democratic.
Politics.
Yeah, it's politics. But to me, watching it, and again, completely objectively watching it, I was like, okay, I got what you're doing there. I see what you're doing there. Okay, all right, gotcha. But yeah, no, overall, it was pretty good. I don't know, man. I don't know if I have much more feedback than that on it. I mean, honestly, what else were we supposed to get out of it besides? And this was the other resounding theme. Almost everybody said something about how bad Trump was, which I would have liked to. I guess this is my last piece of feedback. I'd like to see somebody speak without mentioning Trump to talk about how good Biden is for the country. That I didn't hear at all, which I thought was pretty interesting. I don't know if it's ever been so polarized in the past or not. Maybe with Hillary, I don't know. But that was something that stuck out to my head too. And I saw that as a question somewhere too. I was like, hey, you're voting for Biden? Tell me why without mentioning Donald Trump. And I was like, ooh, that's a good fucking question. So I'll leave you with that.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And I don't think it's been that way for a long time. I think this is the new tribalism politics that we've crept into over the last decade, where it is all about not voting for the other guy instead about why voting for me. Something to that is, I hate to think that the country has gotten to a point where the majority that you need to get elected doesn't understand the policies that you're running on and your platform. And it is all about personal attacks on the other person instead. I refuse to believe that. I think there's too many intelligent people in this country that still understand what a policy is and have some sort of comprehension over the last decade about what laws have been passed. But I will tell you this, oftentimes I talk to people that don't.
Yeah, I was just about to say, too, you were very optimistic there. I was like, there he is again. Bobby Sunshine and Rainbows over there. It's like, I'd like to think there's a lot of intelligent people. It's like, hold on, pump the brakes right there, Bob. No, but you're right. You are right. Unfortunately, though, the general public, yes, there's a lot of intelligent people, and there's equally as many stupid fucks out there. So, mainly, Trump's base. But anyways, moving right along, let's talk about one of Trump's old compadres, Mr. Steve Bannon.
That's not true. Trump barely knew the guy.
Well, he's saying that now.
He always barely knows the guy. We just had a couple pictures together. Yeah, so what? He shacked up in the Trump Towers for like 6 months while I was doing my campaign. I barely knew the guy.
Hey, it's the same thing with Epstein and Clinton, right? They barely knew each other either, from what I hear, even though he's on the flight logs like 3 dozen times. Big deal.
No one knew Epstein. The guy's pilot like barely knew him. I don't even know
He's like,
who
it's
this
weird.
guy is.
I chartered his plane back and forth from the island to South Florida, I don't know, like 80 to 100 times. Never even saw the guy.
Never met the guy. I don't even know. Yeah, it's funny how people quickly distance themselves away from trash when shit hits the fan, right?
Enter Steve Bannon. So
let's break it down here. So Steve Bannon got indicted. So for those that don't know, Steve Bannon, all right, let's just break down who Steve Bannon is.
Well, one thing is, I'll tell you this, he's probably the best looking man in the world. I'm just going to go ahead and say that. And I'm being very facetious and sarcastic.
He's got one hell of a Zoom buffer.
Yeah.
That dude uses like an Insta filter. All right.
Sorry, go ahead.
So Steve Bannon, a former editor of Breitbart, right? Long history with Breitbart, long history of conservative political figure. Rolled with Trump, met with Trump when he was deciding to run back in 2011. And I know all of this because I've been reading Fear from Bob Woodward. He really goes over this whole starting relationship with Steve Bannon.
You're plugging this book, man. I'll tell you that right now.
It's a good one.
It's a good one. Okay.
I would say you should get it. It's a good read.
I'll pick it up.
Other than that, though, so Steve Bannon, really bright guy, starts telling Trump, we've got to get other people on board. You should ditch this Paul Manafort schlub. He needs to get out of here. You need to ditch this other person or whatever, So he's helping him decide his people, right? And even after he's running, and he hasn't been elected yet, or even just after he was elected, he's helping him decide on his appointees. His, the people that he brought in, tell him, don't bring Flynn in. That is going to get you caught up, and he brings him in, he gets him caught up, right? So Steve Bannon, very, very influential with Trump. So obviously he barely knew him. So Steve Bannon,
he might have said hi to him in passing once in the hallways. That's it.
When Trump was running around early in the presidency, trying to build his wall, and Congress is laughing, and you're never going to get money to build this stupid wall or whatever, right? And for 2 years there was no movement on the wall. Sure. So Steve Bannon's like, fuck it, let's just start a nonprofit. We're going to collect money and build our own wall, right? And they did build like several miles of wall with this money.
Can I tell the Stiffies what the name of it was a really clever one. It's We Build the Wall. Isn't that pretty clever?
No one would have thought about that except Steve Bannon. So, like I said, he's a genius.
He's a regular Tesla, let me tell you that.
So they have this nonprofit specifically getting money from their base to build this wall. I don't know what authority they have to build the wall, so I'm pretty sure what they were doing was they were getting okays from the farmers and the landowners all along the border of places that they could, and they were trying to put the wall up there. So this nonprofit organization, Steve Bannon allegedly has been indicted now that he was funneling money and embezzling the money from this nonprofit and just taking it. So there's that. But once again, no, it doesn't have anything to do with the president. I don't even know if President Trump met the guy. We had a bunch of conversations with him face to face, but I don't know if he ever met him.
True. And that doesn't mean anything, right? Because when push comes to shove and this kind of shit comes to light, then he's definitely never met him. Did you see him, by the way? I thought it was pretty interesting. He looks like he was putting on quite a little act there. When he came out of the courtroom after his indictment, he took off his facial mask. Apparently he was wearing one in the government building and everything.
Because they probably made him.
Yeah, but then took it off. Everybody else was still wearing masks. But he did it so people could see his face. Because he came out with a nice little smirk on his face, a pretty big smile. Almost like, I have nothing to worry about. And he's in some deep shit right now. I would just have to say that. I think he's indicted with a few other people too.
Well, he's looking at like more than 10 years.
Yeah. But yeah, he had a big smile on his fucking face when he came out all the way to the car pretty much when he was getting escorted. I was like, pretty nice little show you put on there, Bannon. So interesting. I don't know what's going to happen here. I mean, do you know next steps here? I mean, what's next here? I mean, I know the indictment hearing happened, I believe, but that's about it, right?
Yeah, he probably tries to rush this through so that he can try to get a pardon.
Yeah, get it done while Trump's still in office.
Right. We don't want to
That makes
fight
sense.
this hard enough to where Trump doesn't win, and no chance in hell that Biden would pardon him. So
Well, I don't know. He's a pretty empathetic guy.
that's true. That's true. And I feel bad for you that you got caught embezzling millions of dollars.
Here, let me hold your hand and let me sniff your neck. Here, come here. Yeah, you're a good guy.
If I was the GOP, I'd be like raging pissed at Bannon. I wouldn't even have an opportunity for a pardon on this one because he took advantage of the base. You know what I mean? And the people that could afford to donate millions of dollars.
And that's not the base I was talking about last week. These are well-to-do Republicans. So yeah, absolutely. You don't want to piss them off. They that's the lifeblood. That's the umbilical cord that you guys need.
Yeah, I mean, every campaign needs money. So you need that money. So, yeah, that's where Steve Bannon is. He's dealing with that. Just in case anyone didn't catch that was happening. I just found it kind of, well, I don't know. All of Trump's associates end up in some sort of legal trouble. So
it almost seems typical at this point, right? You're like, oh, somebody else that's associated with Trump is getting arrested for something. What's fucking new? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and the funny thing is the guy that's ringing him up on the charges is the guy that is interim or had replaced one of the guys that Barr, fired to try to get a wrangle on these investigations.
Right? To drain the swamp, I believe is what they were trying to do.
You got to drain the swamp.
Fucking A. The swamp is bigger than ever on both ends of the table. But I don't know. Moving on from that, because we'll have to just see what happens there. And we don't need to spend a lot of time on this. I kind of laughed about it at the beginning of the show. But did you see – I saw a speech, too, where Trump was asked about his relationship now, his connection with, is it QAnon? Is that how it's pronounced, Bob?
QAnon, correct. So
QAnon, baby.
So QAnon started by, there was this secret informant in the government, supposed to be in the political world, and he just went by the name of Q, was letting people in on all these secrets that there is this child prostitution and snuff ring and people harvesting children for adrenochrome and all this crazy shit, but they're all Democrats. By the way, so if you voted for Obama, you now eat children and consume the adrenochrome. So
interesting.
So there's that, but then there's also Trump is going to be the savior and stop all of this child trafficking, but ironically, then ICE loses 1,200 kids. Whatever.
Jesus.
It's obviously.
Oh my God, that's
throw that in there. So
I didn't expect
Q's been
that
going
one.
around for a while with these like outrageous factless claims. Just spouting stuff on the internet. Now they have been gaining popularity. They weren't created until 2017, and Trump has hinted at this for the last year. He has hinted at the children, right? He's hinted at some of the Q things that they're talking about, but he's never outright said it until the poll numbers got bad, right? As they have been in the last couple of months. And then was it yesterday or the day before where he actually said something about his supporters in Q or whatever?
Yeah, I was watching the interview. I think it was a White House press conference too. But literally, he's sitting there, and one of the reporters questioned him about his relationship here, and is like talking about, hey, they are calling you apparently as like a messiah, as like a chosen one to like fix everything. Kind of like, what do you think about this? And I'm just paraphrasing. He's like, well, if I have to, like pretty much if I have to get out there and just fucking correct everything and save all the children, I'll do it, right? What else am I here for? You know what I mean? I'll put my neck out there. And you're like, oh God, here we go. So yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting because from my understanding, this is a bunch of batshit crazy right-wing extremists. And you said it's getting a lot of popularity, which after doing the Flat Earth series,
it means a little less to you, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. I was like, that means two shits to me that there's a lot of people following this shit. That just means that there's really a lot more gullible people that looking for a common connection than I thought before, and they don't need any kind of basis of fact to push it forward. So there we are.
And I was having a discussion with my wife about, Trump supporters and this and that. And if he supports Q, he'll get more votes. And I'm just like, no, he won't. They're the same people that were already going to vote for him, like no matter what.
He'll get the same votes. He'll get the same votes, but there might be a few people that are in the middle on the fence that'll go that way because they're extremely sympathetic about children and they're not going to do any research.
Right. And then the whole the Q thing is like there's like a Save My Children hashtag associated with a nonprofit group. And so there's actual ways to help if you want to save the children. I know that Ashton Kutcher has a couple of nonprofits that are actually for improving the foster care system. Because if you look, foster care is exponentially higher if you come out of foster care to disappearing later. As
kind of makes
an
sense.
Older child, whether running away, getting caught up in drugs, or disappearing, or getting stolen or trafficked. But so there's that angle, and then he's also trying to help, just the child trafficking in general. But you can look that up and see what Ashton Kutcher's into. But there's actual ways to help than just sitting, behind on your phone on Facebook, hashtagging Save the Children, which, by the way, is hijacked away from the hashtag that actually leads to the organizations that are the nonprofits that are specifically trying to do anything about it. And it goes more towards a Q group that does nothing about it.
Well, here's the other thing too. I mean, these commercials have been around for a while, but you could always give to the Christian Children's Fund. I mean, $1, was it $1 a day or $1 a month? And don't you worry about them because 80 cents out of every dollar goes directly to helping out those kids. I mean, you could always do that too. So. Sorry.
I mean, the bottom line is like, if people are so passionate about, the things that Q says that they're trying to fix, they should get off of Facebook and go do something about it. Yeah. Just screaming from the mountaintop about your nonsense about, with no facts, and you're just upset or whatever. We're all upset. We all have children. We all want the best for them. We all want to protect them.
Sure.
That doesn't mean that I'm going to start, propagandizing people with nonsense just because I hope that works. Hope doesn't fix it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and the other thing too is we all do not like pedophiles too, and that's the other big thing that's in all of these little memes and everything too, right? It's like, oh, pedophiles, this and that, pedophiles. I mean, it's a buzzword. It gets people's attention. So, but yeah, I'm on the same page there, man. I think we all need to calm it down there. We need to pump the brakes. And one thing I think that we always, a resounding thing here on the show, and I think in the world that people need to remember is facts and evidence really speak volumes and a lot louder than this empty rhetoric of nonsense. So we should maybe make sure that we always do that, right? Every time you kind of see something, it's like, let's see if that's really true. And then actually do a little bit of research on your own instead of always just ingesting and just absorbing the bullshit from everybody just because they put it on the internet.
Oh yeah, I saw some Q stuff going around Facebook that said 800,000 children are trafficked every year. 800,000 children go missing every year.
Yeah,
all of those 800,000, a certain percentage are taken by their other parent that's non-custodial. A certain percentage or whatever are runaways. Then there's a small percentage of people that are abducted, and then there's a much smaller percentage that are actually abducted for trafficking. So a little misleading for things like that, and that's the thing. That's again with the danger of this group. And QAnon is actually if you remember. Man, I think it was a couple years ago, maybe 2017, 2018. There was the Pizzagate shooting in Arizona where a dude went into a Pizza Hut and just started unloading on workers there for the children, right? Just because he's fucking crazy and deranged by fucking these baseless claims and spiraling out of control with his own delusions. Obviously had mental issues, and when you fucking get guided that direction with mental issues, some people fucking snap, right? And so for Trump to really reach out to endorse Q, I think is really, really dangerous. It would be no different than if Biden were trying to reach out to Antifa or something and call to the masses or whatever. It'd be no different. When you go to the certain left or the certain right and you start talking to radicalized groups, you don't need those guys. You don't need to add fire or gas to those flames.
I'll tell you what though, Bob, I agree with you 100%, but I think Trump is keeps looking at the numbers, keeps looking at the polls, and he's one of those guys. I think you already know this too. He does not want to be. I think they're going to have to pull him and escort him out of the White House if he loses. I don't think he's going to go willingly. He's going to go kicking and screaming like a little kid. And at this point in time, the only reason I bring that up is the gloves are off. You know what I mean? I think he's going to try any and all things right now to get his popularity back up, regardless of the repercussions or if it's really going to work. Because we both know Trump, he doesn't usually think things through. So
Yeah.
there's
Very reactive.
very reactive. Not he's definitely not a Nikola Tesla. I'll
And
tell
he's
you that right
definitely
now.
not a John G. Trump.
Oh no, we will. In fact, we'll get into that pretty soon. I don't know about you, bud, but you think it's about time?
It's always about time. Let's go make a drink.
Woo, yeah. All right, see you in a few.
Cheers, Scotty.
Oh, cheers all the way. Cheers to your tits.
Cheers for fears.
Oh, it's a great band.
Cheers for beers.
Easy to share.
Recline that thing all the way back. Pour yourself a nice little bottle of bubbly.
Hey.
Same time, motherfucker. Same time. I don't know you. So, I don't know if you know. I think you probably left your phone behind. I gave you a buzz here. I was like, hey, man, are you going to use the? Are you going blue? You going to go triple sec? I did both because I got anxious. Yeah. Look, mine's just a little bit dimmer.
It's,
Huh? Wait, hold on. I got to get the money in there. Let's do it one more time. Yeah. Hey. There we go.
So yum.
Electric lemonade.
I went with curacao.
You know what I did? I literally just threw an extra half shot in there. I did a curacao and triple sec. So this one, mine's got vodka, gin, tequila, blue curacao, and triple sec. A little bit of sour mix, and topped it off with some Sprite.
And rum, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay, good. So yeah, it's a great drink. It's of the Long family. We like drinks in the Long family because it tends to get you fucked up.
They're nice. They're tasty. We love them. You're absolutely right. So, and then I also was up there too. Got the ribs off the smoker. Basted those bad boys in some Famous Dave's barbecue sauce. Wrapped it up in foil. Back on the smoker on a higher temperature now. So,
you're
is
getting
that.
ready.
Yeah.
So when we're editing the show, you're gonna be like wearing a bib and just getting down.
You know it, baby. You know it.
So we wanted to hit up on our conspiracy theory today, which is a couple of different things. Very interesting character. We're going Nikola Tesla. So amazing scientist. He had his issues as a person, it sounds like. Just trying to keep his personal life together and his finances together, and like many brilliant minds, didn't have room left over to be a normal fucking person. But
this is true.
He also didn't have the ability of modern day entrepreneurs that would come to help him, and business minds that would be like, hey, we'll do all of that. You just go be brilliant and we'll make money off of you. That really didn't exist in the late 1800s.
Yeah.
No. So, I mean, and then where it did exist was in his direct competition, right? So Nikola Tesla was an immigrant. He migrated over, 1880?
1884, I believe, from Serbia.
So
modern-day Croatia, Stiffies, just so you know.
So he came over here, and a brilliant guy right away just starts inventing all kinds of awesomeness. Electromagnetic picturing and imaging for, radiology. He's kind of the father of that, and that was in the 1880s, right away as soon as he got here. So this dude was super brilliant, but he didn't really have anyone in his corner to help out.
No, he had pretty much nobody, and he was unfortunately, very ignorant about business in general, because why would he give a fuck? So he got taken advantage of a lot as well, too, which is tough times, Bob. You know what I mean?
Yeah, not in a good way. In a I'll take your money way.
Not like in a prison sex way.
There it is. There it is.
Got to get it in there every single show, because prison sex is fun and wholesome, and we do it all fun and wholesome because it's always about the kids. It's all about the kids.
I don't know how that relates, but it is. It's all about the kids.
I had to get it in there. Might as well just go around. And fuck it, Andrew Yang.
Yeah, and I'm no Andrew Yang, but, math. So
math, formulas. Tesla was pretty good at those. I guess there's an association, but please proceed, sir.
So interesting thing about Tesla. So he sets up shop in the late 1880s or maybe 1890s by this point in Colorado Springs, not too far from you, right? And that's where his famous Tesla coil is that you see behind Scotty, for our YouTubers out there. But so he sets up this huge lab where he can generate like 12 million volts. And it's just crazy. It's just like basically there's this huge barn that he does all of his work in. But then he leaves, he gets in trouble like financially, and he can't pay the bill because the unfortunate part about inventing and science in general is that if you do the science in order to keep the science funded so that you can keep creating, you have to come up with viable products to give to the business folks so that they can keep that money coming in. Right.
Yeah.
And
they don't just give you money for trying to invent stuff and coming up with ideas. You have to actually, give them some product that actually makes sense.
Right. And even if you do create ideas or create, inventions that are amazing, if it's not something that you can market and sell en masse, then it's not something that's going to get backed. Mm-hmm. So, for instance, Nikola Tesla was working for years on wireless electricity, literally using the ground as a conductor to power everything between the ground and the ionosphere, right? So obviously that serves no businessman any good because that takes away market, not adds value. So quickly, as he's creating this path for mankind and moving humanity forward, no one gives two shits because you can't profit off of moving humanity forward, right? So then he's not making money. He ends up going to, I think it was, where was his next lab at? Was it in Pennsylvania?
The next lab was in New York. It was Briarcliff, New York.
Where he built the tower.
Yeah. The tower that's gone and all the documents of the tower are mysteriously gone. That's the place. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, they should dig that up and see what's underneath there.
Well, I mean, we'll probably get into it a little bit more, but you did see the testing that they were doing on what's underneath there. There is shit underneath there, but so there's just that.
So he basically created this giant Tesla, coil.
Tesla coil, yeah.
Right, and this thing's, a couple 270 feet or something like that tall. So, a 30 story. 600 feet total because there's a few hundred feet in the ground.
Underground, right? Yeah. So total apparatus was 600 feet. Yeah. Sure.
So this thing was huge. There's a bunch of underground tunnels down there. There's a bunch of rods protruding out into the earth. So obviously, at one point, someone heavily funded this because in the early 1900s, to dig that down, to create all these tunnels, to build all this steel infrastructure would have cost a grip of money, right? Obviously money that he didn't have. So the thing about Tesla is he made all of these inventions. He created the most significant, or one of the most significant creations in the last, 100 years, if not ever, was the alternating current motor, right? So he created the electric motor. I mean, you see it in everything. If you have a fan that cools you off, if you break that open, there's a Tesla motor in there.
No. The alternative was direct current, which was just not feasible. It wasn't practical at all. It would lose power as it's kept going around in the circle, and then eventually it would break. It would spark up, and that was your boy Edison, not your boy, but you know what I mean. That was the competition before him, and nobody could seem to wrap their head around this idea outside of Nikola Tesla, which is interesting.
Well, plus with direct current, if I'm not mistaken, I think it takes a grip of sustained power.
Yeah, because it keeps losing momentum as it passes through the same current over and over again. So yeah, you have to keep pumping it in there. Again, it wasn't viable long term. So yeah, Tesla, and dude, here's the other thing I just got to stop real quick. I mean, I don't remember, and maybe you went to a better school than I did, but I don't remember learning about Nikola Tesla until I was out of high school.
Yeah, no, it was just a quick mention that he existed, and he was a scientist that
fucked around with electricity.
His research with electricity.
Yeah.
Yes, the famous picture, all of that. But nothing like the press put on Edison. Edison is one of the great inventors of all time. Put him up there with Da Vinci, you know what I mean? Not so much.
Yeah, the more I learn about him, the more I just kind of think he was just run-of-the-mill, lackluster kind of for-profit inventor that didn't really have a lot of I don't know, didn't have a lot of foresight to really see beyond the present, right? So again, not really going anywhere future tense, unlike Tesla, who was, as I put it, which I love it, was more inclined to keep focused and keep pushing forward on the mysteries of electricity and how he could harness the power. Hence, again, some of the things that he did.
Right. And so this is a case of kind of the victor gets the spoils, right? History is written by the winners. So Thomas Edison, heavily bankrolled. Thomas Edison co-founded GE, which is still a giant, you know. So whereas Tesla had no company. He didn't get really anything because he didn't invent things to make money. It seemed like money was kind of an afterthought. Everything that he invented always seemed to be in line with because humanity needs it, right? He wanted wireless electricity so the world could have unlimited clean power.
Yeah, and
You know what I mean?
I want to stop you right there just to kind of highlight what you're saying about the giant Tesla coil in upstate New York, call it, right? That was designed basically, and JP Morgan initially funded it, if you remember. So he did have a bankroll for a little bit until he wanted to take it a step further, and then him and JP Morgan butted heads, cut all his funding, hence why that never went anywhere. But that giant coil was to give first all of New York City free fucking electricity, free wireless electricity for the entire state. And his goal was to make free wireless electricity for the entire fucking globe, which he probably could have done if he would have kept the funding going, which is very interesting because something that we'll talk about more probably is that doesn't really give anybody at that current time any value what they're putting their money in, right? We talked about this too. JP Morgan was heavily funded in copper wiring and heavily vested in it, right? So if you take away the purpose for and the need for copper wiring, which was obviously a huge necessity back then, and even until this day, still pretty heavy. My house is all copper wiring, you know what I mean? But you take that out, oh shit, what happens to all his money? So that was another reason why they butt heads too. And we could talk about it more too, but even the combustion engine, and his idea of the electric car, which I thought was really, really interesting. There was a grip of motherfucking manufacturers, including Edison and Henry Ford, that were coming out with electric cars around the turn of the century, meaning the 1900s, right? That was literally strong-armed by the big oil companies to fucking get the fuck.
A huge media push to get everyone blindsided with fossil fuel energy and with combustible engines.
Yeah, I believe several or seven. I can't remember the number specifically because I'm trying to go off of my non-photographic memory because I'm not Nikola Tesla. But so many factories that Edison and Ford had together to make electric cars were mysteriously burned down. And they were in buildings that were supposed to be indestructible, meaning they couldn't burn down.
They had used asbestos or for whatever fire retardant lining was used in the buildings, and all of a sudden it still magically burned down. And that was Thomas Edison's building in his manufacturing plant of these electric cars. Also, his coil in New York blown up shortly after World War I or during World War I. The story from the government was that they're afraid that the Germans are using this for communications and intercepting communications or whatever, and they blew it all up. Which is how it wasn't connected to anything, but whatever. So obviously it kind of seems like a concocted story. There's very interesting things about the discreditation of Nikola Tesla, though. So obviously when he was, younger and there was the car manufacturing thing going on and Edison was competing with him with AC versus DC motors or whatever. There's that, Edison had more money to throw. Was
that really a competition though? The AC versus DC thing?
It wasn't.
I don't see how Edison could be like, oh, let me put my motor up against yours and let's see when mine starts sparking and fucking braking and losing power and I got to keep. Anyways, I'm sorry. I just think that's comical.
Even now, if you look at electrical engines versus gas engines, there's not even a comparison. You can take a Tesla now and do 0 to 60 in 2.9 seconds.
Yeah, and they can go up to 250 miles per hour now too.
Yeah, and that's like a supercar.
No.
That's like a Lamborghini or like a V12 Dodge Viper that can't turn.
It's close. It's close to my Subaru. That's all I'm going to say. It's getting pretty close.
It can hang. It can hang in the first eighth mile. So, but even still, though, so Nikola Tesla had this like life-changing invention with the DC motor or whatever, but it constantly got discredited because he was up against big business. Right? It's no different today than the little guy inventing something, and like you hear it all the time: batteries that don't run out, so Duracell buys you out of the patent. Tires that don't ever wear out, so Goodyear, BF Goodrich or something buys the patent and takes it from you, and then the little guy has no choice. Oh, you want to give me $10 million? Yeah, that'll change my life forever. Of course, I'm selling this. So you see it all the time as these big industries buy these patents or they strong arm these little guys out of business. And that's no different than what was happening back in the early 1900s when it was GE and Thomas Edison pushing Nikola Tesla out of the industry. So he eventually went to, fine, let me work for the government then. Let's switch gears here.
Here we go. Yeah.
So then the whole thing about Tesla is, well, he died penniless and alone. Like
Allegedly.
85 or something, right?
Allegedly.
In like 1943, I think.
1943 New Yorker hotel. He lived there for a decade apparently without doing everything.
So if I'm not mistaken, the New Yorker hotel is the hotel from Ghostbusters.
It's so funny. It's funny that you mentioned that. It's such a dope ass hotel. And when we were watching the doc, I know this is a total sidebar and everything. When I was watching the docu-series last night, Jamie was sitting next to me. I was like, dude, this fucking hotel, because they were literally talking about, I'm getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, but how the theory is that literally he didn't build the hotel, but basically it had everything it needed. Do you remember down there with all the I can't remember, on the bottom floor, all the power.
They had all their circuit breakers and everything, and they were all like these crazy Frankensteinian switches.
But 3 times as much power capacity than the hotel needed. Already kind of like, why? What's the deal here? An underground circuit of tunnels and not railroads and like transit could be down there.
That today, that building was powered independently off the grid.
Yeah. So that's kind of interesting too. The way it's shaped, how there was literally metal ground, like fucking beams that went from the very top of the tower all the way to the fucking floor. Very similar to his giant Tesla fucking tower that he built in New York that just disappeared, right? But I got like just kind of fascinated with this with this hotel, and I was like, fuck man, I'd love to go to the room that Tesla, because they were in it, right? It's like, oh, this room is smaller than like a prison cell is now today. It's like, you can't believe he spent 10 years in here. And we were looking it up and like, you know what, how cool would it be to go for our anniversary and stay in like the room that Nikola Tesla lived in?
Yeah.
Well,
I get you.
It's not like he was murdered or anything, so nothing kind of crazy and haunting going on. Well,
not that anyone knows.
Not that anyone knows about it. I don't think that's even part of the conspiracy that he was murdered.
Just eat this pillow, old man. I'm gonna take these folders.
But the I guess kind of the big deflation for me is now it's the New Yorker by Wyndham. So it was bought out by Wyndham fucking hotels or whatever, and it kind of changed it. But still, the aesthetics still look really awesome. It's a really crazy hotel, and I think you're right. I think it is the hotel from Ghostbusters.
Yeah, I think so too. So in 1929, the New Yorker was built. So right.
This is like right after, I think, didn't Joe Biden sign the bill to get the construction started? I believe.
No, but there is a picture of him holding a shovel for the groundbreaking ceremony.
He's cutting. He's cutting the ribbon for the opening. Is that Biden?
It's like him and Bernie. So the New Yorker was built in 1929. Tesla had been living there for about a decade when he died in 1943. So that means he's been there since 1933. This was the tallest building in New York at that time when it was built.
Perfect for what he wanted to do, if you ask me.
That, and if he was penniless, how the fuck are you going to be in the most prestigious hotel for a decade paying that tab?
I'm glad you brought that up, because that was glaring to me when I was watching this. I was like, wait. And we know he was penniless, meaning for himself. He didn't.
If you lived in Trump Hotel, that's like a $55 million suite.
Yeah. Well,
right?
Living even today, it's the same today as it was back then. Living in a hotel and paying the weekly or whatever they have worked it out with you is exponentially more expensive than having an apartment somewhere.
I bet it's like $15,000, $20,000 a week in today's money.
Exactly. So I was thinking about that, especially when we get into this a little bit more here, that obviously he went to the U.S. government. they turned him down. Allegedly, because I don't know, it doesn't seem like they stopped watching him at all. He went to the UK, British government. They turned him down. And then the story goes that he eventually started working for the Soviet Union because nobody else would work with him, but he basically was kind of transitioning his inventions to more of national defense and weaponizing things versus kind of enlightenment, kind of more just about electricity and common good of man, let's call it. But that to me, again, that stood out to me, and I'm glad you brought that up, is how the fuck does this penniless old man that's a shunned, kind of discredited inventor by the establishment, by rich fucking aristocrats and entrepreneurs and other inventors like Edison, they completely beat him down and fucking destroyed his reputation. All of a sudden, again, he is living it up in the fucking fanciest hotel, the biggest building in New York City for over a decade, but he's got no money. So obviously he was funded, but by whom, Bob? You right?
Yeah, he had to have been funded because hotels just don't give you a suite for free indefinitely.
Not even if you're Nikola Tesla, and I heard that he had some gorgeous baby blue eyes, but you know what? That can only go so far, Nikola. Okay, baby?
That's true. That's true. So a couple of things to this story. Like, the story really gets interesting when he gets to New York, because other than that, he's a used and abused brilliant mind. In fact, we have to say it so that everyone knows. Albert Einstein was once quoted as saying, Nikola Tesla is the smartest man on the planet.
Now, just stop real quick, Stiffies. That's Albert fucking Einstein. Probably the smartest and most influential man of the, I'll just say early 20th century, saying, no, not me, guys. This motherfucking Serbian over here is
not
way
Oppenheimer,
smarter.
not any of the Manhattan Project guys. No.
Not even Edison or other inventors of the time. This motherfucker is the smartest man in the fucking world, and I think that speaks volumes to his potential. Got to say that.
Right. So he's been just beaten down and abused his whole professional life, not as a person, but his career, right? And he's brilliant mind. Everyone knows it, right? So finally, he moves into the New Yorker in 1933. Both of his labs have been destroyed or sold off to pay debts over the last 30 years.
And blueprints, effects, papers, everything within them gone mysteriously. I have to mention that too, including the one in Colorado, including the one in New York, all gone with no trace, no idea, no fucking reasoning, justification.
Right. So now all of a sudden he's a 75-year-old man, allegedly penniless, working on national defense things, trying to sell them to whatever government will buy it. One of them is a direct particle beam weapon that can fire an accurate laser for 200 miles. That's pretty hardcore for someone to be working on.
This he called the Teleforce. That was his name, but given to it by the public was called the Death Ray, which again, I understand he wasn't actually thinking it was going to be for offensive, weaponry, more of a defensive weapon, but I did find that very interesting. I even wrote that down. I was like, Teleforce versus Death Ray. Now, what name do you like better? Come on, real quick.
So, well, in the paper of the time, Death Ray, obviously. But so there's a couple of things here, right? So late in Tesla's career, he's working with this apprentice, right? His name's
Blois Fitzgerald.
Right?
Yeah, I got it.
So this guy, they work close. So Nikola Tesla was notoriously secretive, but Fitzgerald, he disclosed some of his biggest, most secretive projects and the details of these things to his apprentice.
That was his boy.
That was his boy. That was the guy that he was working with. Interesting thing about Fitzgerald, there was a letter that turned up that Fitzgerald had sent to the OSS, which for you Stiffies that watched the MK Ultra episode, we know as the precursor to the CIA. So the operation,
the wartime
strategic. What is it?
I can't remember. I'm going to actually look it up. You just keep Office of Strategic Services, the wartime establishment that eventually became the CIA. Yes.
Right. So this is World War II. So this is late in Tesla's life. He's already pushing 80 by the time, these guys are getting involved with his stuff. So he writes a letter specifically about some of the things that he's working on, asking them kind of like what they need or what they're looking for or whatever. Mm-hmm. The person that ran the department for what is it? The defense research for the U.S. government at the time was
You're
actually
calling about Vanderveer? Vanderveer Bush?
Vanderveer Bush. He was the president of Harvard, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So he was the one that was working on all of this, along with Donald Trump's amazing uncle, John G. Trump.
Jesus Christ. And I mentioned this before. I just have to interject here. This fucking family. I just got to say that right now, dude, because we've done a handful. We've done a handful of conspiracy theories now, and this fucking guy's family gets fucking mentioned in some of the most devious, fucking maniacal, crazy shit. It just troubles me, but I guess it's not surprising, dude. But I will say this about John G. He was actually fucking very intelligent
and accredited.
Yeah, like for real.
So I read a little bit about John G. Trump, and that's Fred's brother. So Trump's dad's brother, his uncle.
The better-looking brother, I must say, too. Fred was a weird-looking guy.
Yeah, John looked like normal. So John Trump, Fred Trump and his mother started a real estate business, and Fred went to work with her when he was like 17 or something, right?
Sure.
So John Trump started working with them too, got into it with Fred, and was like, I don't want to do this. I'm going to go do something else in my life. And then he went and he got a degree from New York School of Engineering, and then he went on to Columbia, where he got his master's degree in electrical engineering, and then went on to MIT and got his doctorate in electrical engineering, and then a couple years later became a professor, where he was a professor for 30 years at MIT. So if any of you guys know academia, that's what's up, right? He made it. He did his thing.
Yeah, he was a smart guy.
Very smart guy. So he was working with Bush, Vanderveer, not George.
Not Herbert,
dear
Herbert
God.
Walker.
Just on some of these other things, with the Department of Defense, and they're working on some of these projects. Well, interesting thing, when Nikola Tesla died, the government and Vanderveer Bush specifically called on John G. Trump to go look over his, who knows, there's different accounts, 80, 120 cases.
20, 30, 60. Yeah, but anyways, numerous trunks of billions, 200,000 plus documents of all his scientific and invention work.
Right. So they want him to oversee it because
He's
Tesla's a foreign national, right?
Even though he was a naturalized citizen at this point, they pulled the foreign national shit so they could take all of his stuff and keep it for 9 years.
Right. So then after a while, he has it for like 3 days and said, "There's nothing in here of value. Move along." And you can overlook, his hundreds of ideas and projects and deem it that there's nothing of national security interest that would be critical for the government to keep, when it's more realistic that they cherry picked all the good stuff and then they sent the other stuff away 9 years later to
Serbia.
I forget what Serbia, Eastern.
They sent it back to his family in Serbia in 1952.
And then it ended up in the Tesla Museum some years later.
Which we could talk a little bit more about that too, but yeah, definitely.
For real. So, interesting thing though, some of the things, like, you remember the death ray that we just talked about, and that was in the papers. This was a thing. Like, everyone knew he was working on this. Everyone knew it was a thing. It was a project. It was a huge thing. There's not a single document of his plans for the death ray, quote, that's been recovered. Obviously, it's been taken by the government, and I'm not even going to say allegedly. That's been taken by the government.
No.
So, a couple of days after he died or whatever, when his body was found, one of the people that showed up on the official documents was Fitzgerald. He was there.
He's got an interesting first name. His name is Blois Fitzgerald, which I actually had to spell check that. It's like, did I hear that right on the documentary? And I was like, sure enough, Blois, Bloyse. What the fuck kind of name is that? But anyways, that's just me.
So Blouse Fitzgerald was there, but the official documentation that he gave was that he was the hotel manager, and that's why he had to be there. No, he was the one that knew what he was working on, and he knew what he was looking at when they were rummaging through his files. That's why he was there. That's why the OSS was there. They needed his help
Mhm.
to pinpoint down what they were looking at so they could quickly ascertain what was what and get the critical stuff and pretend the rest was all bullshit.
Well, because they had to hurry up too, or they couldn't take all their time there. They had to have somebody that was very close to him say, "Hey, this is garbage. You can give this back to Serbia. This is garbage. This is gold. This is garbage. This is gold. Okay, let's get the fuck out of here." Right. So,
Right. So the things that have never been found that he's been known to work on are the worldwide ionosphere conduction, wireless and internet, wireless electricity, and then the death ray. So those are the two things that have just disappeared from existence.
that we know about. I'll just go ahead and say this because, again, with over 200 articles of documents, there may have been way more shit that he was working on that will never come to light, or at least never come to light that it was his invention or his inspiration that got us there. I have to highlight that.
And I'm sure there was, because he's a very secretive guy.
Yeah.
So Nikola Tesla, brilliant mind, always fucked around with his competition and business people, always fucked around by the governments. This guy needs more credit for the imprints that he's left and his legacy on mankind. And I think that Elon Musk has given it to him, at least in some respects.
Well, and this is the other thing too. I mean, it maybe not even Elon, but even taking a step back, the guys that actually invented Tesla motors is not Elon. Like, he just joined the company,
Right.
but
Yeah,
they paid tribute to him with, calling the company Tesla, because, again, the whole thing, and they're like, hey, how do we do this? How do we even make this car? And they use the AC motor, dude. And like
AC
just
motor
using that.
and lithium ion.
Yeah, so using his direct influences and his inventions, that's cool, because, again, they've catapulted Tesla's name into the cosmos where it should be. But again, there's still a lot of gray area here, which I think is interesting, man. But what are you going to do, man? I mean, literally, there's a lot of people that had stake in it to bury this guy, discredit him, erase him from history and what he contributed to, take the credit for it, or just bury it completely. And here we are. So it's interesting.
Yeah, it's a real shame. He really does belong in the upper echelons of inventive minds over, all of humanity. Like, he really does belong up on that list.
After learning more about this guy, and granted, I already, after a while, especially after high school and I get out of public education, I learned a lot more about him. But I would put this guy up there, maybe even above, but definitely up there with, like, Da Vinci. You know what I mean? I really, really would. There, I mean, I told you this too before the show. I was watching something about him too that was outside of these conspiracies and whatnot, about him just kind of, working with the government stealing all his shit. But very unique fucking guy, man. Very unique fucking guy. He literally had a photographic memory. He would literally use his imagination to piece together his mechanical inventions in his head without ever writing them down. Never write down blueprints until he thought, by just inner working and tinkering in his imagination. If you can imagine doing this, which is, like, to me, it's mind-blowing. And then by the time he would put shit down on paper and build something, it would almost already be perfect. Because
imagine if he had a computer. Or
yeah,
a supercomputer.
Can you imagine, dude? So that's how fucking crazy dialed in and how much imagination power this guy had. He could literally manifest the mechanisms of his inventions and making them work out correctly in his head before he even fucking put them out of his head, which is just fucking nuts, dude. I don't know. Maybe that's how Da Vinci was. Maybe there's one of these guys every few centuries or something like that. And maybe that's why Einstein gave him so much fucking credit, dude, because he probably noticed this or just saw it, and was like, holy shit, this guy's fucking out of this world. But yeah, to me, and again, this was all done, right? We talked about it. Everybody had some stake in discrediting this guy and erasing him from history. And it's a fucking goddamn shame, dude, because I think, and we just talked about it, but I think he is one of the biggest and brightest and most influential minds of history, not even modern history. So there's that.
Yeah, no, and I agree. And I'm glad that we got an opportunity to study on Nikola Tesla, because I remember when we were talking about a show, I'm like, hey, Scott, I just found a new conspiracy theory that we might want to chase down. Let's look at Nikola Tesla. And that kind of started us down this rabbit hole. But what a rabbit hole to go down, right?
It was a very enlightening rabbit hole. It was like, God damn, okay, I get it. Like, we were talking about the Osprey fucking aircraft. I mean, that was one of his mind child, back in 1900 or whatever, basically. And if anybody doesn't know, it's, an Osprey is an aircraft that is basically can function like a helicopter and an airplane at the same time. It can take off from a, singular point, doesn't need a runway, and then can easily transition and get top speeds just like a normal aircraft and do the same thing back up and down. Very fucking cool aircraft. But that was all inspiration from Tesla. And who knows, maybe the government took that shit that got funneled to the Air Force eventually, which makes sense, right? I mean, Vanderveer Bush was overseeing what would be NASA and the Air Force intelligence at that time.
Right.
So it only makes sense that would trickle down. They would get the inspiration to create this thing, but it took them 90 years to fucking perfect it. Imagine if he could help them out. Crazy.
Yeah, and it's really a shame that he basically like lived the middle-aged part of his life in kind of as an outcast in the scientific community when he should have been encouraged. But because he wasn't making things that were highly profitable for business, he didn't get the opportunity to.
And I'll say this too, he was too bold for them. You know what I mean? He was thinking of things that seemed too far out there. Or again, like not practical to the time. So, oh yeah, this sounds like wireless fucking electricity, wireless telephones, all this stuff like that sounds batshit crazy. Go back in your fucking hole, old man. You know what I mean? Which again, it is very sad. He not only should have been a part of the scientific community, he should have been the fucking leader.
So just to recap here, in case anyone's like doesn't understand what Tesla's credited for, right? So it's the AC engine, that the motor, which is still used in everything today, including modern Tesla cars. He's credited with wireless communication, right? Wireless electricity, i.e., setting your S10 down on a pad and having it charge, right? That's Tesla. So he's invented some of the things that were so far out there that he was 100 years ahead of his time.
Dude, X-rays too.
X-rays, right?
Jesus Christ,
it's kind of the godfather of radiology in general.
Mm-hmm. Radio remote control. I'm just looking at a couple of things there, but yeah, no, there's so much, dude, that we have literally. And you may have already said it, but like everything in our existence and day to day, just reality. Without Tesla, we wouldn't have any of this shit, and we'd probably be behind the curve or just finally figuring out some of the things that he already had.
While the rest of the country was in an industrial revolution, he was like in the 80s trying to invent cell phones. I mean,
dude, he was already playing Miss Pac-Man. You know what I mean? Like he was getting down.
It's almost like he was sent back from the future to hasten the pace of evolving technologically.
You got to wonder, and I'll leave you with this. So I thought that was just pretty interesting. I saw this in the other doc that I watched. This may be lore, it may be fabrication, it may not be. But when he was born during a hardcore, like electrical thunderstorm in Serbia, and the midwife did mention to his mother, like, this is a child born of lightning and storm and whatever, and she kind of corrected her and said, he's a child born of light. And it was at the stroke of midnight of when he was born during this hardcore electrical storm. So pretty, again, give it what it is, whatever, it may be complete bullshit, but I think it's a nice little story for somebody that literally is the godfather of electricity.
Yeah, so to Nikola Tesla.
Let's
raise one up.
And I hope he did. We talked about this earlier. I hope he got laid. I really do. I really do. I hope somebody just fucking got a little release for him. Because the one thing that we've talked about is there's no mention of any woman, whore, love interest throughout his entire life, which again, maybe he was just that much of a kind of crazy out there dude to even bother with it, like you had mentioned, but I think that's kind of sad. So hopefully he got laid.
Yeah, I don't know, man. He may have been like asexual. I don't know. He may just not have had time for that.
He might have known how to just stare at his junk and ejaculate, like without touching himself. He was that.
Maybe he had some sort of erotic robot. I don't know.
That was his first invention. He needed that when he was a teenager.
Right. So yeah, if you guys don't know, the documentary, the docu-series that we were watching were actually the Tesla Files on the History Channel. So if you guys want to give that a watch, they really dig into a lot more of the conspiracy theory about where the files went, what happened, government cover-up, who's the who's in line to gain the most by receiving these files and inventions, and the need for covering them up. So check it out.
Yeah, and one thing I'll tell you, those Stiffies, and I think you can probably imagine already, or else me and Bob would have mentioned it, there's no conclusive evidence or anything of what really happened, and that's, again, what makes it a pretty cool conspiracy is there's so many people that had a stake in this that could have. We just know that governments were involved, definitely the American government, and pretty sure that the Nazis maybe were involved too for a while. The Russians were involved, maybe the British, but it's interesting, man, because, wow. I mean, just wow, what happened there? I think that was a great topic, Bob. Kudos for bringing that up.
You're welcome. So, on to the stiff truth. It's almost like an afterthought after that great segment. It really is.
Don't discredit the stiff truth. Don't Tesla the stiff truth, okay?
Don't Edison it. Don't Edison it. Don't GE our stiff truth.
Hey, touche, my friend.
Hey, by the way, a little circle of life happening there. Tesla stock is over $2,000 a share, and GE's is like $6.
Oh, snap! I guess if
Just gonna throw that out there.
Hey, you know what? What goes around comes around, karma, baby. So that's what's up. And you know what? I think both of you and I have stock in Tesla, and I'm gonna be putting a lot more in on Tesla. I'll tell you that right now.
Oh, I just sold some stock to put more in on Tesla.
Good for you. I'm actually thinking about getting rid of Clorox altogether and just putting that on Tesla too. Clorox is one of those.
I don't think you can go wrong with Tesla, and they're about to split.
Yeah. Well, you know, after the pandemic, I think Clorox is going to tank. That's just me. So I got to be forward thinking.
Well,
there's that.
Tesla's not going to tank. Not anymore.
All right. Hey,
things have changed.
We're boring the Stiffies. We're talking about making a lot of money. So let's move on to the stiff truth, right?
Well, we wanted to talk about the death penalty. Let's just throw it on out there.
Yeah.
There's a recent death penalty where they did an autopsy and found out that the phena, not barbital, phena something else. Anyway, the shit that they shoot in you to kill you, actually sent this guy that just got put to death in agony for the whole time he was dying. So that's neither here nor there about what we're talking about. But we wanted to talk about the death penalty. Is it good? Is it bad?
You're actually right, dude, I think.
Occasionally.
No, it's just sodium barbital. I think it's a sodium barbital. Anyways, keep talking. Don't worry about me.
So there's been a debate for a long time, especially in America, because you've got the bleeding heart lefties that'll say, no, death penalty is ever bad. Or ever good, I mean, and then you've got the hardcore conservative people that tend to fall on the, put them to death thing. I probably have a little bit more of not unsurprising, but a blended view on this, because you know me, I'm very John Kerry with things, and I like to ride the fence.
I know you like to ride things, but what I was going to say is you have to be a little bit blended about this. I think that's just my personal opinion. Like a decent scotch that we get from Costco, it is blended. So jumping into this, because let's face it, like you were saying, there's definitely some polarizing, I wouldn't say partisan views. I wouldn't say that at all. I think people on both ends of the aisle there have a difference of opinion. But where are you at, Bob?
Well, so I'm a proponent of the death penalty. First and foremost, I do think that it should exist. I don't think that it should exist for relatively rehabilitable people. Right. So if there's someone that, kills someone out of, rage or whatever, and then they get put to death or they get sentenced to death or whatever, then maybe not so much for that person. But if there's someone raped and killed a 7-year-old, okay, we should not only put them to death, but I think that we should get value out of the death penalty to make it influential. So there's the argument that's been going on a long time with the death penalty, that is the death penalty doesn't deter violence or crime because it's the ultimate. And if you get sentenced to it, it doesn't matter because you'll die anyway. So do the crime anyway. And if you get caught, you'll just die and you won't have to pay a huge price for it.
Sure.
Right. So
sure.
That's the argument of why it doesn't work.
Well, and I will say
what?
this though too. The only thing that's backing that up, and I looked this up, is it's not huge, and there's probably so many fucking other variables state by state that affect this. But on average, states that do not have the death penalty have lower crime and homicide rates. It's very, very fractional. It's very, very small, but that's what they're standing on, I think, when they're saying that. I just wanted to interject that because I got my own opinion too, but go ahead.
See, I'm probably not of the normal crowd where I'm like, well, if you do something that warrants the death penalty, which in my mind is pretty heinous. First off, I am not a fan of a 20-year wait. I know it costs $1,000 a day to finance a maximum security prisoner.
Well,
I
who's
don't
paying
want
for
to
that?
pay
Yeah, exactly.
$360,000 a year for 20 years to put some piece of shit to death. I think we should save the taxpayer money. And if you get found guilty, you get your one appeal, as is, constitutional. Then once that appeal's good, you go ahead and implement that death penalty and save everyone some money and do everyone a favor. But I think you need to publicize them. I think there's something to a town square hanging.
Oh,
Call
dude.
me old school.
No.
But you gather the town around and you make everyone watch, especially your kid that's 12 years old, and you're like, holy shit, if I fuck up, I'm going to get the short end of a long rope there. That's impactful and makes it meaningful. If it's hidden away into the shadows, oh, well, they executed someone today for a crime that was committed in 1983. No one fucking knows what that crime was.
Yeah, and the only people that were in there were the police officers and the family members, and it was a closed circuit, no TV. Well, yeah, then nobody gives a fuck. I understand that's what not a deterrent if you don't show it. I'm on the same page with you. I say executions that are warranted, put that shit on TV, put it on prime time. Not even pay-per-view, because that's pay-per-view, and we talked about journalism and having to pay for that. That's a little bit of friction and a roadblock to see it. So I say fucking broadcast it everywhere. And
hey,
make sure
PBS is government funded. Put it on PBS.
Fuck yeah, baby. Fuck yeah, baby. Can you imagine that? It's like PBS with another great execution coming up next. So stay tuned, everybody.
And it's some guy that's like on Barbiturates or something. He's like, coming up on Wednesday at 7:00, the public executioner of name your three named killer, because they got to have their middle name in there.
Always got to have the middle name. Always got to have the middle name.
Right? We execute David Parker Ray. Right? But I completely agree that legitimizes it and makes it to where we can't fuck around. All right. If you want to do some crimes, you're not going to go to some prison facility. We can go get your college degree and start giving stock advice. No. You're going to go to prison for like a week while you get a very hastened appellate trial. And when that's done, then we're just going to set that date for a week out, and we're going to televise it, and we're going to execute you, and we're going to show all of the Americans why you don't fuck around.
One thing I want to say, too, is this is where, and I know we smear them a lot, but this is where Florida and Texas excel, right? There is a fast fucking track to the electric chair or whatever form, probably lethal injection mostly now. I only think a couple of states use electric chair now, but there's a fast track getting there. They don't execute too many people per year, but you know what I mean? But when they do, they don't waste fucking time. They don't waste our fucking money. Once they know that these people are guilty, they get executed very quickly, which I appreciate. That's probably that's the best thing about those two states in my mind from a legality standpoint. So kudos, and you're not going to hear this much from me, but kudos, Texas and Florida.
Well, and I will say this too, is I don't think that the death penalty should be for very much. I think it should be something to where similar to a grand jury indictment, right? So after the trial is done, then you get your sentencing or whatever, then send that to a separate panel of peer-reviewed people that can then look at that and see if we're going to implement the death penalty or not, and then have that be the decision. So it takes it out of one person's hand who could have gotten emotionally involved over the trial, which would be the judge, right? Instead of that, let's put it into a group of people so they can actually talk about it for a while and decide if that's the right way to go. So, but in the end, I really can't stand it when I see someone that, after a 27 year stay, they finally got put to death from lethal injection. And no one fucking knew about it to the day after.
Yeah.
Man, seriously. First of all, We can increase ad revenue. We can increase. It's good for the economy because everyone will watch that shit. You put a death sentence live on TV, you're talking Super Bowl ratings.
Oh, dude, and like you said, we can NASCAR this shit, man. You know what I mean?
Tonight's death penalty brought to you by Tide.
Tide and Marlboro and Budweiser. Budweiser beer is cool, crisp, refreshing. Yeah, absolutely, dude. I agree. And here's the other thing. You had mentioned this too. I don't think it should be widely used at all. I think, and I like what you said there too. We need to have, if somebody's going to go to death, unless it's just cut and dry and they admit to it. Hey, I murdered all those kids. Hey, I murdered.
Or if they request it.
Yeah, if they request it, cool, man.
Let's save everyone some money. I'm down.
Let's go. Let's get it done. But I do agree with you because the one thing that I do not like seeing, and I saw this a little bit on my research on it, is people that are put to death that were completely innocent, and they weren't given kind of the fair trial. They were given one shot. And I like the idea you're saying too. We got to go through a couple of panels here. You know what I mean? A couple of objective panels to make sure that we're making the right decision without people that got skin in the game, like you were saying. But the other thing too is I do think this, just to kind of flip sides real quick. I don't think the death penalty is right for everybody or every crime. And in fact, and I know this kind of sucks from a tax standpoint, but I think there's some people and some crimes where they are better suited and it's a bigger punishment to know they're going to be sitting in a cell for the fucking rest of their life. And I think that is more justice in some instances, but in the instances, and just not to be, vague here and to be kind of black and white about it, you murder somebody. Yeah. Right. You take their life. I'm very Bible-ish about this, and I'm not about a lot of
Old
things.
Testament Bible.
Yeah, I'm very Old Testament. Eye for a fucking eye, dude. You know what I mean? So if you murder somebody, I don't know if I'd go as far with rape and things like that too. I think you need to take it further to be put to death, because I think it has to completely balance out and equal each other. But murder in any way, shape, or form, if it's direct, if it's premeditated, if it's intentional, I think that warrants a death penalty. I'm just going to go ahead and say that right now. But when it gets into crimes of theft, dishonesty, shit like that, that's where I'm more leaning towards putting him in jail for 30, 40 years. You know what I mean? So I think that's where that's the divider for me. That's where it splits. It's like, okay, this leads to death and you meant to do it and you maliciously did this and this is what happened. You're going to die. You're going to fucking die. It's going to be swift. It's going to be broadcast all over the place and people are going to know, hey, you know what? You do this shit. This is exactly what's going to happen to you. It's going to be grotesque. Your eyes are going to pop out of your fucking head and everybody's going to see it. Or you do this, you're going to fucking rot and think about it for the rest of your life. I think there's value in both ends of the table, but I think removing one, and I know what I had said before that, countries do have a little bit incremental lower of, homicide and crime rates for when they don't have the death penalty. I think that's kind of bullshit and just it's substantial. You know what I mean? It's just there's a lot of other variables that go into why there's higher crime rates. Culture. So much more. I mean, we could get into that and be another conversation, but absolutely. But yeah, I think when it leads to death and it's intentional, your penalty should be death. That's it. And should it be even, I don't even like fucking lethal injection. I think it's too humane. And honestly, I don't think if we're putting somebody to death, we shouldn't be thinking about the humane side of it, dude. We're putting them to fucking death. We're not giving them a goddamn pillow beforehand. We're killing them because they killed somebody else and they intended to do it.
No, I mean, I agree. I think that there's something to be said about a guillotine firing squad, electric chair hanging. That's watched by people that's impressionable. And I know that's going to fuck my kid up. Good. It should fuck your kid up enough to be like, I'll never do that. Whatever that guy did, I'll never do that. What did that guy do?
Yeah, mommy, daddy, what happened there? Well, this is what happens when you go out and murder somebody. This is what happens when you rape a child that's 7 years old and they die because of your actions. This is what happens when you do this. You'll be like, oh, well, fuck, maybe I will never do that or never even think of doing that.
And then on the other side of the argument, this is where it gets political. I don't want to sentence people to death. I don't believe it. I don't want to do it ever.
Nobody deserves to die.
I also own 3,000 privatized prisons.
Right. Yeah.
I'm just saying that there's something to be said for lobbyists against the death penalty. Also fucking working for people that own the privatization of prisons. And if you don't think about that, then you're fucking naive.
Hi, Jeff Sessions.
Hold on. Hi, guys.
But seriously, he's one of the guys. And again, just as an example, the reason why he's so for calling marijuana basically heroin and things like that is because he wants more people to go to jail. More people go to jail for that guy. You got stakes in private fucking prisons.
He's got donors, man.
Yeah, dude.
He's money.
Yeah, but again, the other financial responsibility, and we've already touched on this too. That's the other big thing. If somebody does something malicious and it causes their death, and they meant to kill them, or their actions irresponsibly led to their death, you got to go. And there's no reason, like you said, that they wait in jail for 10, 20 years, 30 years to get executed, or sit in a cell for the next 50 years if they're younger, and have us paying for this fucking piece of shit out of our tax dollars. We already, and you know my stance on this, but we already pay a fucking out the nose for taxes. We're probably going to pay even more in the future if things transition to more the liberal side. I'm okay with that if things are used for the right reasons.
As long as there's representation, right?
Absolutely. As long as there's representation. And to me, I don't know, there's some bleeding hearts, obviously, that are going to disagree with me. But for somebody sitting there getting 3 square meals a day, getting to use the computer, getting to fucking watch HBO every night, getting to fucking exercise, getting to do all this, and they don't even deserve to live, and I'm paying for all that shit, and exponentially for numerous people across the country, fuck that.
Or how about this? You're the parents of a 10-year-old girl that got kidnapped, raped, and killed.
Dead.
I didn't get the death penalty.
Yeah.
You're paying tax dollars now to pay for this guy's meal and living quarters and security so that he doesn't get hurt by other inmates, right? So you're paying for that knowing that this guy did this to your kid. And then also, well, fuck, I forgot where I was going with that.
No worries. But, just to kind of pick that up there, yeah, what a fucking sting in the fucking heart is that, right? You don't get any closure. You know what I mean? Because let's face it, dude, probably the biggest proponents of the death penalty are families of the fucking victim. Bob,
I remember. So also, while you're paying for all that, knowing that there is a company that runs this prison that is profiteering off of this person that is you're paying to keep living while their stock value is going up in their company and they're getting executive bonuses.
Absolutely. And the ping pong back to me about that too. Again, let's just face it here. I know I'd be in this boat. I know you would too, because you just alluded to it. If it was our children, our wives, right, that were murdered, and it was clear as day that they were, and granted, there are cases where it's hard to figure out. Honestly, I don't think we send those people to the chair if it's that hard to figure out. I mean, that's where I say, you know what, put him in jail while we figure this shit out. And if we can't figure it out, he doesn't go to the chair. That's just the way it is. And I'm sorry I keep using the chair. I just think it's one of the best ways to kill people that need to be killed. But the people that want this the most.
It's because we were just talking about Tesla. I get it.
I know. Dude, I'm charged up. I had my electric lemonade. I'm feeling good about things. But yeah, no, the people that want the death penalty the most likely, and I would say probably on the majority of the time, is usually the families of the victims, right? And they want to be there and see it. Those are the ones that get to go and see it too. They want to see this guy fry. They just want to see this guy hang. They just want to see this guy whatever. But those are the ones that get something from this. And like you were saying too, the other thing that's nice to know is you can get some closure. You're still going to grieve. You're still going to have this empty part in your life and your heart. But at least you are not literally paying for this piece of shit to stay alive and to stay healthy and to stay safe as you continue to grieve and feel fucking horrible for the rest of your life.
100%. So there it is, Stiffies. I don't know how politically aligned you feel that you have your bearing on me and Scott are, but I think that we'll always kind of surprise you in some of the issues and the way that we see things.
Yeah, we just went pretty right wing on that one, didn't we?
A little bit.
But yeah, hey, let's be honest here, dude. And I think this is the problem with most ideological bleeding hearts. I'll just say that because I won't just classify them as liberals, but people that are very bleeding heart is it's all fun and games. It's all great in theory to say, oh, I don't believe in the death penalty. Wait till it happens to you and yours, right? Wait till you're fucking what's the guy, John Walsh, right? That got his kid fucking kidnapped and then found him that was decapitated and shit like that. If that was you and your family, you don't think that you want to see that guy fucking brutally fucking murdered right in front of your face? And they're like, well, what's that going to do? You know what? It's going to feel good in the moment, and then we can move on. and I'll know that piece of shit's not walking around breathing, taking up my goddamn air. That's what would feel good. Ha!
And if you publicize it, then maybe other sick fucks will get the hint.
Yeah, maybe they'll stop fucking doing this kind of shit and they'll go, jerk off to gay midget fucking bestiality porn like they should. That's all I'm saying.
So, I mean,
you're like, so.
I was gonna say a joke there, but I don't think it would have landed very well. So.
Hold on, give it a few minutes. Give it a second. Okay, now go ahead.
Worked for you. Anyway, so that's about it. Death penalty overall, I think is a good thing. I don't think we need to see like beheadings ISIS style, right? But I do think that in a systemic way that we could, incorporate checks and balances with how we justify these things and separate ourselves from the emotion of the case, so that people involved with the case as far as decision making, with maybe a different panel or something, we actually can have a little bit more of a system that normalizes the process. Because right now every state kind of does its own thing, and there's no like national way to kind of handle these things, which I think should be. And I'm like a small government kind of a person myself, but when it comes to death penalty, maybe we should have a blanket for the country so that everyone's on the same page and we can use the same system for everyone, so it's even and it's fair. But overall, I think that it's a good thing to have that as a deterrent. I don't think that paying $350,000 a year helps anyone.
No, and that's the thing, dude. Is I think even if it's not mandated, I think it should always be an option for every state. You know what I mean? I don't like the idea, and I get states' rights. Trust me, I back that up 110%. But I don't think people could think about it right now. And again, I know it doesn't seem like a deterrent, but like we've already talked about, there's so many different variables from state to state that build into your crime rates. It's not just the fucking death penalty, especially if they're in the shadows behind the curtains, like we were talking about. But they should all have the option to do it, because here's my thing. If I was a criminal and I thought about going on a murdering spree or killing somebody, and I knew I could go to a state and do it there where there wasn't the death penalty, I would take that advantage, knowing that my repercussions.
Worst case scenario.
Right? Yeah, worst case scenario, I'm not going to die. I'll be put up in a fucking nice little penthouse suite compared to what I'm in right now, have 3 square meals a day, watch HBO all day. Yeah. I think if everybody knew from state to state that would happen, if you do these kind of things and this is what's going to happen, I think that would be a deterrent. But since it's not, you've got this lopsided beyond these other variables. You got people that probably seek out certain states to do certain crimes in because they know the repercussions aren't going to be that harsh.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt that. I think murderers and criminals are a lot more calculating than we give them credit for.
Yeah. I mean, they're no Teslas or anything like that.
A few people are.
Well,
that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know I did. I enjoyed the research for the week, and I enjoyed looking up history and facts.
Believe it or not, this is always enlightening for us. And we didn't talk about it much here, guys, but the electric lemonade, the stiff drink today, it's a good drink. It's eerily similar to an Adios motherfucker, just to let everybody cat out of the bag a little bit there. But it's really fucking good. It's a little bit different. And if you actually use triple sec instead of, what is it again?
Curacao,
blue Curacao, right? Because there's orange Curacao too. But if you use that, then it has a different color, I guess a little bit more of a lemonade color. And to let everybody know too, there's actually an alternate version of the electric lemonade that isn't a long style of drink, that's got vodka, blue Curacao, and Sprite and like lime or lemon or something like that too. But we decided, like you said, not to go with that one because we're beefy alcoholics and we want a long drink that gets us a little bit buzzed. So there's that.
We like our long drinks.
Rock and roll, man. So yeah, if we're about done. I think we're doing actually good. I think we're under time for the last couple episodes, if you believe it or not.
Look at us go.
Look at us getting back to the hour 45-ish, probably around that, huh?
So thank you everyone for spending the time with us. We really appreciate your patronage. And speaking of patronage, if you would like to help the show, you're always welcome to hop on Patreon and give a one-time contribution or sign up to be one of the levels of Stiffies that you can pick there.
But, hey guys, there's literally a link to this right on our website, thestifftruth.com. You can go check it out. Plus, all our episodes are there, and all of these fancy cocktails are there too, right? Tell them, Bob. Tell them.
Well, you just did, so I don't have to.
I wanted you to back me up, man.
But it's there. Thestifftruth.com is where you'll find us. And our contact information is also on there. So if you want to reach out personally, feel free. Other than
Absolutely.
that, again, thank you. This was a great show, and I look forward to seeing you guys next week.
Absolutely. Take care, Stiffies. Rock on.
See ya.